Hello, in this video I'll be showing you how to use the VoxSun Pro app on your mobile device. So the first thing that I'd like to mention is that over here I'm using an iPhone, which is an iOS device, but the instructions that I'll be showing you are also applicable for Android phones as well. So the first thing that I'd like to show you is we're currently in the main tab, which is the keypad, and we can also navigate to other tabs from the bottom gray area. So before we begin, let's go into the settings by clicking on the gears icon on top right of the screen. And over here, we can go to account setup to change any login information in case we have to change our extension number, but let's go to preferences. Inside of the preferences, we got a number of important options. For example, we can change the ringtone, so this way we can easily differentiate calls that come into our app versus calls that would come into our normal phone. If we go back in the sounds, we can also change some sound settings. By default, our app uses a number of echo suppression, also noise cancellation algorithms. So if in case you don't like the call quality with these, we could disable these. But in my case, I'll leave those enabled because they work pretty well. Now, we also have a call recording function. This call recording function is also completely independent from the call recording that is done on your VoxSun Cloud PBX. So it is possible that every single phone call is recorded on your VoxSun PBX, or otherwise you can dial *1 to start recording a call. However, independent from this, you can also record all your calls on the application and then be able to save them or email them. Let's go back. Next thing that I'd like to show you is the network section. Because obviously using apps uses the network, your mobile phone also will need to use either a Wi-Fi connection or a mobile 4G or 5G data connection. So in this case, for example, let's say if we're at a coffee shop and we're using Wi-Fi to get our work done, but we realize that it's not such a stable connection, we could over here change the priority and, for example, prefer mobile data instead of the Wi-Fi network. So in my case, I'll just leave it so that it also prefers the Wi-Fi whenever we're connected to Wi-Fi. But in case if the Wi-Fi network wasn't great, you could also switch this to your mobile data. And now finally, at the bottom of the screen, we can also change the language. So in my case, it's in English, but in case your phone language is different or you'd like to change it back to English or perhaps another language, you can always do this from there. So let's click on Done to exit the options, and let's start exploring the app a little bit more. So let me show you. The first thing that I'd like to show you are the options of the Quick Dial. The Quick Dial allows us to have a number of contacts that we call often, and not only this, we can also see their status over there. So let me click on Edit. Let's delete this. Just so I can show you, sorry about this, let's click on Delete, just to show you how do we add an actual new quick dial contact. Let's click on the plus button, and in this case, I'll type in Thomas, which is my test contact. And in the phone number, we could type in an internal 4-digit or 3-digit extension number, an external phone number, or if we type in the full number with the system code, we can access that special busy lamp field, which is sort of a status of whether the phone is online or not. So in this case, this is what I'm going to do. So the system code for my test system is 0003 star and then the extension number of the person, which is 1002. I'll show you later where you can get the system code from your contacts. And I'm going to enable the busy lamp field option so we can see the status of this phone, and I'll click on Save. So now when I click on Save, I'll also click on Done. We see that this phone is currently not online, but now if I pick up the phone, which is at 1002, and I simulate a phone call, you'll notice that now it's red because the person is online. And then when we hang up, well, it goes green again. So that's an easy way of keeping in touch of your team or your other colleagues to know whether they're busy or not. If we go to the History tab, we can see all the phone calls that we've done, received, and also missed. We can also filter by missed calls or even just recorded calls on the top of the screen. Next up is the keypad, as we've seen before. So this is pretty self-explanatory. We can simply type an extension number and then click on the big orange call button. In our contacts, we have two tabs. The first tab is the address book. Now, if you allow permission to the app to see the contacts on your phone, you'll see all your phone's contacts within the screen. In my case, for the purposes of this video, I didn't allow the app to see the contacts, which is why it's blank. However, in the web service screen, you can also see all the contacts, all the people that are under your phone system. So in my case, I only have three contacts, but in your case, it might be more. If you want to search for contacts, because this might be useful if you're a big company, we can click on the search field and then simply start typing in the name, and you'll see the search results appear right away. So I can click on the little X to get out of the search. And then finally, we also have messages. So this allows us to effectively chat with other users. So if I click on the little new button here, I can either type in a extension number directly, a 4-digit extension number, either search within contacts. So if I search for Mary, I'll see the full extension number of her. Or if I have an external phone number that's connected to my VoxSun extension, I could even text any external callers, external cell phones, and also receive text messages as well. So it's a really useful function. So let's begin by showing what happens when we're on a phone call and what are the functions that we can make on a phone call. Before we begin with this, let's talk about the voicemail just quickly. If we have any messages waiting in the voicemail, what will happen is that this big call button at the bottom will actually split in half, and there's also going to be a voicemail button. In my case, I don't have any voicemails waiting for me, so there's no voicemail button. However, we can always access the voicemail by dialing *95, which is the code for the voicemail. The password by default is 1234. Now in this video, you'll be hearing the voicemail, so what will happen is I'll hang up and then I'll explain you some of the functions. The voicemail is easily navigable through the keypad. So as you saw, what I did is I pressed on the keypad button. Let me call back *95 again. We can press on the keypad. In my case, I typed 1234 as the password by default. And then what would happen is then you would have to continue navigation. So by pressing 0 is the option for advanced options. You can then select 1 to change your unavailable voicemail message. The unavailable message is the message that is heard if you don't answer the phone at all. The option 2 is to record your busy message. So the busy message is the message that will be played back if you reject a phone call. Whenever you get a phone call, you get a green or red button. So green is obviously to pick up the call, but then red is to reject the call. The reason of the busy message is that some people like having a message which would say, hey, I'm at the office, or for example, I'm currently available because I'm on another phone call, but I'm unable to pick you up. So leave me a message and I'll call you back literally within the next few minutes. The next option, option 3, is to record your name. This is very important if you use the voice recognition feature on your VoxSun system, because if our system is unable to determine if it really is you that the caller wants to speak to, it will play back that message to confirm if it's really with your name that the person wants to reach. Option 4 is for a temporary vacation message. So in case you're gone for a few days, this message will take priority over any other messages and will play until you go back to option 4 to delete it. And then lastly, option 5 is to change the voicemail password. As you've seen, 1234 is the default password, so we highly recommend to change it to something more secure. Now, next up, how do we make a phone call? Well, if we want to dial normal extension, for example, 1002, I can simply type 1002 and hit on the big orange button like we've done for the voicemail. But what I can also do, I can go in the contacts and I can search for someone, and then I can simply press the phone button over here. And now the phone is ringing. Let me just pick it up. And now once we're on a phone call, we have a number of buttons. The first one over here is the mute button. So obviously by clicking on mute, the other person was just going to hear silence and they won't hear a microphone. The next button is the speakerphone button. Now the speakerphone button also doubles as the audio input-output button if you have other kinds of audio devices connected, for example, like a Bluetooth headset or a Bluetooth microphone. Now, next up is the keypad. You've seen we've used this one with the voicemail, but if you're calling a company and, for example, you need to dial a 0 or maybe some buttons in their menu, you can always bring up the keypad by pressing on the keypad button. You can also put a call on hold by pressing on hold. So what hold does is this means that the caller will now hear music on hold. The idea is if you need to make the person wait for more than a minute or so, it's better to put the person on hold rather than mute, because in this way they know that they're still connected. They know the call is still there rather than just hearing silence. Now to take back a call from hold, as you've seen, I've just pressed on the hold button yet again, and now we're back on the phone call. We can also record the phone call, as we mentioned just a few minutes ago, by hitting on the red circle. Now we can also do a transfer. There's two kinds of transfers that are possible. The leftmost button here, a transfer, is what is known as an unattended transfer, and the rightmost transfer button is known as an attended transfer or a supervised transfer. The unattended transfer means that we're going to transfer a phone call to another extension, and we don't care about the outcome of it. I'll give you an example. Let's say we need to transfer Thomas to a colleague of ours. Perhaps that other colleague isn't even in the office. Perhaps that other colleague is in a meeting. What happens is after we do the transfer, the call disappears from our screen. This means that either Thomas will be able to talk to our colleague, or perhaps he'll simply get forwarded to the voicemail if the other colleague isn't available. Now, versus the attended transfer. With the attended transfer, what will happen is we're able to talk to the person to whom we're transferring the call before doing the transfer. So in our case, we could make sure the person really is available there. Or for example, perhaps we need to transfer a client or someone else to a supervisor, in which case we can ask our supervisor, hey, are you available to take this call from a client? And then this way, the supervisor could say, yes, I am, in which case we would complete the transfer. Or if the person isn't willing to take the call, we could, for example, go back to the client and, for example, ask them to for example, what can we help them with instead? And we can also do a three-way conference by using add and call. So let's start by showing how these features work. Let's click on the transfer button to perform an unattended transfer. So in this case, what will happen now is we go back to the keypad. Now we have to type in the extension number or another phone number to whom we want to do a transfer to. So in this case, I'd like to transfer this to 1000, and you'll see as soon as I click, the call disappears from our screen. And now effectively the two callers are connected. Like I mentioned before, maybe the caller hit a voicemail, or perhaps maybe the caller is now talking with the person. So let's go back 1002, which is the Thomas extension, just to simulate another phone call. And now let's do an attended transfer. If I click on attend transfer, what will happen is the screen is very similar. We can now either type an extension number or also click on our contacts. So in this case, just to show you that we can do this differently, extension 1000 is John Smith. So let me call button for John Smith. And now what happens is we're ringing John Smith. We can talk to this person beforehand, and you see at the bottom of the screen we have two buttons. We have a blue transfer button to the left, and we have a cancel gray button to the right. This means that if John says, you know what, yes, I can take this phone call from Thomas, please transfer him to me. I can click on the blue transfer button, and now as you see, the call disappears from our screen, but these two people are now talking together. Now, call back 1002. Let's simulate what happens. For example, the person to whom we want to transfer doesn't want to take the phone call. So in this case, let's simulate that Thomas picks up the call 1002. Let me do an attended transfer. Let's type in 1000 this time. Show you that we can do this by typing manually. Now again, we're waiting for 1000 to pick up. 1000 picks up. And in this case, if the person says, you know what, I'm really busy right now, I can't take this call. What I can do is I can click on cancel, and you'll see that this call transforms into a normal phone call. And then we also have a gray button to the side to switch between calls. That's because our other phone call with 1002 is still on hold. And we can also click on the little tab over here near the top of the screen to see what are the phone calls that we're currently on. So we'll see that we're talking with 1000, but then we also have extension 1002 that is on hold. So what happens now is, for example, I could say, okay, well, listen, have a great day to 1000, and we hang up the phone call. And now to come back to 1002, I simply click on the hold button to unhold this person. And I could say, oh, I'm so sorry, my supervisor isn't available. Is there anything else I can help you with? And obviously we could hang up the call or do whatever else we want. Now, the last option that I want to show you is how to do a three-way conference. Let's say if I need to conference in 1000 with 1002, it's really easy. The way how this works is similar to how your mobile phone works. We just click on the add call button. In this case, I'm going to type in 1000. Now, we have to wait for 1000 to pick up the phone call, which just happened. And now once we're ready to merge the calls, we just click on join. Once join is done, you'll notice on top of the screen we have two participants. We have 1002 and 1000, and now we can talk to them. Now effectively everyone's talking together. I can either split the phone calls by clicking on the split button. In this case, I'll have two calls similar as an attended transfer, as you saw, where I'm able to select one of the calls or the other one, hang up with one, continue another one. Or if you click on the end call button, it simply hangs up on people. And that covers for the functionality of the VoxSun Pro app. I hope that you learned something new. I hope that you have a great day and have fun using our app. Thank you for watching this video.